Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the EMSDC's MBEIC webinar. I'm Joel Burstein, CEO and founder of Keep It Simple Training and Development. We specialize in sales, management, and customer service, consulting, and training. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the MBEIC, it stands for the MBE Input Committee. Today, I'm joined by my two fellow MBEIC committee members and EMSDC board members, Reshma Murthy and Paul Douglas. Reshma is the president and CEO of Frontier Technologies, with the overall responsibility for the strategic direction, vision, values, and goals of the organization. She is driven with the purpose of customer value through tech innovation, as well as revolutionary and disruptive innovation. Paul Douglas is the president of the JPI Group. Their organization strives daily to make the lives better for partners they work with, the clients they support, and the communities they serve. JPI specializes in helping clients develop customized recruiting solutions to help attract and retain the key talent you need. In addition to our board members, we are honored to have a very special guest with us today, Donald Kelly, the founder of the Sales Evangelist Sales Training Organization and host of the exceptionally popular sales podcast, The Sales Evangelist, which incredibly boasts listeners in 158 countries and has more than 3 million all-time downloads. So thank you all for taking some time to join us this morning. So let me share a little history as to sort of what got us to hosting a webinar today. At the beginning of COVID, we all realized that we were kind of up against something unique and knew that we needed to support each other to get through all this. So this group here started having regular conversations, right, in order to support each other. And as we worked through our challenges, we realized that we really wanted to share some of our experiences with our fellow EMSDC members. So we decided to create this webinar. So today's focus is going to be on really leveraging the digital tools to connect with our existing network and find some new business opportunities, along with some overall sales tips and tricks that we've all learned in the last couple months. But before we do that, let me cover a few quick housekeeping items. One, this is going to be recorded, so we'll share it afterwards if you'd like to pick up some of the things that were said. And number two, save your questions for the end. We'll do a quick Q&A then, and use the chat for the Q&A. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So this first question is for Reshma, ladies first. COVID sort of, and the understatement of the day, right? COVID caught us all by surprise in 2020. But tell us about that moment of truth for you, right? Where you really started to look and go, this is affecting my business. We're going to have to make some changes, or we're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Thanks, Joel. So for us, the moment of, I was going on in 2020. I had a great plan from 2019 to really beef up the company. I had many different goals in terms of how to targeted events that I wanted to go to, events that were going to help with my own brand as an individual, and how that was going to help our company grow. And then that March 13th, I was actually coming back from a business trip. And that's when it really hit me, because my whole world kind of stopped, my whole world business-wise and also personal-wise. And it really forced me to really have to take a deeper look into our business and how we were running things and how we were handling things. And so I had to think quickly about, all right, everybody has to work remote, right? So what are the technology parameters that need to be put in place? We had to beefing up a lot of our own internal security tools, right? Which is really important because, again, we're a security company. And so that's number one. And then also we had to take a moment and really look at our own business expenses, right? All the expenses and everything that we budgeted completely went away. The budget went away. And so what we were going to do. So we had to lean up the team a little bit. We had to make some, personnel changes. It was very tough during this time because it was a time when there were lots of layoffs happening and people furloughed. And that was challenging. And it was just hard decisions. But, as being the boss, that's what you have to do. So those specific instances are what really triggered it for me. And it just forced us to take a deeper look into the business. And it forced me to think about, for me personally, what is our end goal in 5, 6 years, right? And then working backwards from that. So now it's forced me to look at big picture and more strategic. And so that's a blessing in between.
Nice. Paul, how about you? What was your moment of truth where this all became reality?
Well, luckily, Joel, we actually had a COVID playbook back in March.
You didn't share it with the rest of us.
With anyone else.
Now we're all upset.
When did this hit? I'm probably a little bit lagging behind Rashford because I would say it didn't really hit me personally until around maybe May, June. And here's why. I didn't expect it to go as long as it did, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when it initially hit in March, I said, okay, like anything else, I think most owners, executives, leaders, you say, hey, how do we quickly get over this as another obstacle? So I was ready just to go over another obstacle. Around June, over the weekend, I realized we haven't landed a new client in 3 months.
Yeah.
As most of you guys know, we're in the recruiting space. We had no new contractors, no new clients. So around June is when it really hit me because we had no clients coming in. I had no phone calls ringing, and every client that I reached out to, I was more concerned about just making sure they were okay. And that was all of my conversations for about 60 days. Are you guys okay?
Yeah.
So that's when it hit me. And I think it hit me more on the tail end because I thought it was something we could get through. It was another small obstacle in the road. Now, once it did hit us along the lines of Rash, we did all the expenses, strategy. We sat down and had all the meetings we needed to have at that point. The one thing that stood out to me the most was we sat down as a team and we actually said we're going to get through this thing together. So we actually kept the entire team tech.
Wow.
Throughout COVID. And that was a promise that we made to each other back in June. And I mean, knock on wood, it's October and the same team's in place, intact. Now, granted, you can imagine there's a lot we had to do to make that happen. But that sticks out to me, that conversation we had on a Monday morning where we kind of were honest with each other, say we'll do what it takes. And we found a way to get through over the past couple months.
That's pretty awesome. I mean, that's important. I mean, getting your team to stick together, that says a lot, man. That says a lot. Hey, Donald, how about you? What was that moment of truth for you?
That was a very interesting time period. To go back to March again, I was having a coaching session with Scott, one of my clients, and Scott was talking about some of his deals and some of his pipeline. And then what we started to look at, I went into the same idea that like with Paul, I was like, well, this is going to be a short window. This is, like everything else, this too shall pass concept. But it was obviously it's a long stalemate, right? A long waiting window. Fortunately, our business is set up in a way that we could handle because a lot of the stuff that I did was remote with training. However, a lot of our clients' businesses were not set up for this or were capable of handling or taking care of it. So quickly we started to see things that were supposed to happen. I mean, things that were supposed to happen falling apart. There was deals I had, and I use this analogy because I think it's perfect. It's like I had about some $30,000 in recurring revenue and deals in a pipeline getting ready to close. I mean, I'm talking about contracts are out and it's just getting ready to sign. And it was just like water on Mars. It just disappeared in an instant. And I started to panic a little at that point. I'm like, okay, well, we can survive. We can function technology-wise with the team. But what do we do if we don't have anyone to help out? And it was kind of scary at that time. And I recognized that it wasn't an economic issue yet. The economy was doing great. One of the, was doing well at that portion. I looked at my 401k and I was like, good stuff. But then you're looking at the, pipeline stuff transferring. And I was like, there's a deeper issue here and it's going to become economic soon, very, very soon, if this continues. And, a couple months into it, that's what it was. That was my moment of truth, that something has to change and we have to do something differently now.
Well, it's sort of interesting, right? I think everybody's sort of, I think we all fell victim to this to some degree, was that we all kind of thought that this would be over sooner, right? We thought that probably by school season or by the winter or end of the summer, we thought it would end. But, now, that everybody's kind of been through this and you're having to make those shifts. I'm curious, right? How much have you projected what you think, like how far out you think this might last and how much you have to really kind of plan? I mean, from my perspective, we've been thinking 18 to 24 months. And that may have been total, right? So are we looking at another year and a half to 2 years? What do you guys think about that? Don, I'll start with you.
We started planning for 2 years, like from the very get-go. We said, when is vaccines going to be? And that's like saying when vaccine is going to hit. Still yet, not everyone's going to be willing to take the vaccine, probably. And then, portion-wise for everyone, before life can get back to how it resembled prior. I think those are some of those things that will take time for. So we at least are planning for at least a 2-year a process with that, and in our mind internally.
Yeah, Reshma, how about you? Any guess? I'm gonna hold you to it, by the way, if you're wrong. So you know.
For us, I think I'm similar with Donald in that sense, where I know it's going to be at least another 6 months, 12 months to end of year. I mean, they're already talking about different events that we go to this year, that next year they're still going to be virtual events. So I think it kind of threw me by surprise, because I was just expecting, all right, vaccine, we're going to be fine and everyone's going to get back into it again. But it's different. So from a planning perspective, I don't, we're focusing more strategically on specific clients, and we've shifted our focus and our sales focus and building the team on the federal government, because that's still going for us, and that's where it's really working. Getting some key strategic contracts that are going to help us part of that 5-7 year goal that I mentioned.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've heard a lot of people doing the federal contracting stuff, really kind of focusing in on that as an opportunity going forward. Paul, how about you? What are you thinking?
I personally think it's going to change forever. I think business is going to. I don't think this will be 18 months or 2 years, and that's my personal opinion. So with that said, I'm on the same lines as Reshma. We've completely realigned our target strategy of what clients we need to go after, right? One of the mistakes I made, and everyone talks about diversification, very few people do it, right?
That's right.
Clients say, hey, I need to find X percentage in healthcare, X percentage in utility, X percentage in the federal government. But in reality, if I don't target those clients, we could be out of business in 2-3 years, right? Because we're not going to be in the no. So to answer your question, we're planning that this thing will be around a little bit longer. So our goals, our target clients, our services we're going to offer, we're adjusting it to act as if this is not going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah, no, it's a valid point. So now we're here, right? So this is where we're at. This is the new norm, some people love it, some people don't love the saying, but this is kind of where we're at today. So Donald, I have a question for you, man. So you have the great distinction and pleasure of talking to so many salespeople all the time through the podcast, and I know you're teaching some of your clients some of the coolest stuff out there. But social media has been a way that we can still connect with folks, right? Because we've lost networking, we've lost a lot of the in-person touches, but LinkedIn seems to be a pretty powerful one. And you had some really cool ideas around LinkedIn. What have you been sharing with your clients that you think people really should be utilizing more?
LinkedIn is gold. The quote of the day, if you'd like one, I know Joel has a nice quote on his whiteboard back there. I encourage you all to check out that quote. You should reach out to Joel and ask him about it. But in addition to that, the quote number 2 is, I want you all to say this out loud. You're by yourselves in your room or your office. LinkedIn will make me money. And
love that.
LinkedIn will make me money. It is 100% true. And here's what happens with LinkedIn now. And I'm not talking about spamming people on LinkedIn. So go back to our thing, sitting back with Scott in that recording session, that Zoom meeting in March, and trying to help him with his mindset and help my mindset as well during that COVID time. What I realized was a lot of our clients who were corporate clients who might have, or company owners who would bring us in for training purposes or help their team, they weren't doing this anymore. Those deals are the ones that died off. But what we started to see was that there was an increase in individual sales reps having interest, because now people wanted to solve problems, sales problems that they had. So we started to switch our programs in an adjustment to make it more to favor the individual reps rather than the company as a whole. So selling individual seats to some of our programs. And that made a huge difference. And we saw an uptick, and we did a promotion for our community. And I recognized that portion, you can give people offers that they can't refuse. And that's what we started to do. And we started to do the same thing with some of our vendors. We gave them offers that they couldn't refuse, and it helped us to get good buying situations at that point. But going back to LinkedIn, what I started to do at this point, I started to become more active on LinkedIn. And here's what happened. I know all of you, and I'm going to make a generic statement here, but I imagine that many of us on LinkedIn, we have a LinkedIn profile, check, but we do not engage or participate on LinkedIn. We do not post content enough on LinkedIn. And this is one of the things I learned right around that COVID era. LinkedIn was, and I actually learned this previous to this, some of these stats, but then the work, some of these things I'll share with you. LinkedIn was bought by Microsoft 3 years ago now. And in that acquisition, Microsoft, if you notice, LinkedIn becomes like the new Facebook. If you notice what they're doing, because they're really copying what has worked for Facebook over the years. So many things. And LinkedIn had it set up where it was previously was the thought leaders that had good results with algorithm. So now individuals, when Microsoft changed that, they opened it up. They're like, basically, if you post good content, we're going to give you the opportunity to be seen by everybody, not just Guy Kawasaki or Sir Richard Branson. So then now when you do a post, you can extend your network. So, but again, I think what studies show is that the numbers show that only 3% of LinkedIn users post something monthly or weekly, only 3. And they have like 50 billion impressions. So what I started encouraging people was per day is that you need to do a post, do a thought engaging post that would make your prospects turn their heads and look at you, and use the hashtag. So I use a Seinfeld example. If I'm going to do a post on LinkedIn, I want to make it a post that people would think but would never ever write. And one of the ones that I did at the beginning of COVID in March, I put, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job. All of those salespeople who follow me, sales leaders, everybody was like, crap, yes. And that post got a couple thousand views, and then the comments went crazy. And then what started to happen with those comments is that I started to get second-degree people that were connecting with me. And second-degree people basically is someone that you're not connected with, but let's say I'm connected with Paul and Rishma. They have friends, and they commented on my stuff. Their friends saw it on their profile, and they started commenting. I then sent a personal invite to each of those individuals, or say, hey, I saw that you interacted on my post. Would love to connect with you. And that got me connections. And then what I typically ask those people is, tell me about a challenge that what's one of the biggest challenges you're facing right now with the current situation? Everybody had something that they were facing. Once they said that, then it led me to having a appointment set up with those people. And I started to have dialogue. And I started to see that's how I started to sell some of our programs. And I got more appointments, and I was like, what the heck is going on? And if you want to, I can show you if you're.
Yeah, please.
Want to do that? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So this is, if you guys don't know, so this is my iPhone here. I'm just going to share my screen on my phone. If you guys want to know how to do this on Zoom, that costs extra. So you can stay after for the extra
I need
class.
to write that down.
Yeah. We're all trying to pay him to get to learn how to do this. None of us knew how to do this when he showed it to us.
On your phone, on Zoom, if you go on your Bluetooth and go on your Wi-Fi with the one that you're on your computer with your iPhones, you can do the same thing, but now I can hit share screen, and this is going to share my phone. And voila. So now you're going to see my 14-month-old kid there, Caleb. You got to make sure you don't have embarrassing pictures. So this is LinkedIn. And there are a couple things that I've learned with LinkedIn that's been very, very effective. Go down, if you click on the top right-hand corner underneath the messages, there are tons of new things that happen. I'm going to give you guys a real-life example. So Jennifer here, I'm not making this stuff up. Jennifer connected with me. She's a VP of Sales and Marketing for our organization. I said, happy Friday, always looking to connect. So I could send her a voice message, and I'm going to do it right now on LinkedIn. Hey, Jennifer, I want to thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful week. Look forward to learning from you here on LinkedIn. Boom. LinkedIn allows us to do voice messages right inside of it. And you can also do a couple of the things that makes this personable. Because again, remember, so many of us right now, many of us who are in our situations, we're locked behind our computer screen. We don't get a chance to interact with human beings. So now Jennifer, she's at home and she has a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, and this kid is throwing stuff and she's trying to teach them out math as well, or run school. Now she gets an opportunity to connect with somebody else that she's not typically connected with in her office that's left her a voice message. That's huge. You can also send messages. So you can interact. Again, it brings up the engagement level with your prospect. So I'm going to put Reshma, we're going to make sure do some connection here again. Oops, let's spell your name right. So we were playing earlier, and you can see some of the things here. You can send videos. So I sent her a video, and there's a video of me saying something. See if it pops up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so it was playing that video. You can also send emojis. So this allowed, again, for me to have interaction with people that I typically wouldn't have had. And then these interactions are leading to appointments. And all of these things can be done just right here on your phone. If I wanted to do the camera, I could go ahead and do the camera right there so I can send a video. Look at that. You're going to get a video of everybody. You can delete all of these, Reshma. So then now she has this video that just got sent her, as well as you can go ahead and send like pictures or GIFs or so forth. But all of these interacting capability things, it wasn't so much as to spam people, but it was another way to engage with more of these prospects. So let's say, you might say, well, Donald, let's put this in a real life situation. You all have, let's say you have, I don't know, you have 5,000 or 3,000 people you're connected to. What if you sent them a voice message and said, hey, Joel, just wanted to send you a message, hadn't connected with in a while, hope you're doing well, or something to that nature. Joel, I saw that you just hosted a webinar. Looks awesome. Great. If somebody just had a promotion recently, right? Send them a message on that and send them a voice message. You're engaging with your base again of people, and that allows for opportunities to come to the table. And one of the strategies that we started to do, so I'm going to show you one here with this guy. Again, I told you this straight up. So this guy recently connected with me for my podcast. I listened to the podcast, sent him a voice message. He was blown away by it. He told me, and then I asked them, what's one of the biggest problems you're having right now with your sales? He said, the hardest part I found is coming up with what to say in initial conversation. I had some early success with this technique, set an appointment, blah, blah, blah. So then now I asked him if he had a few minutes for a conversation. He says, yes. Can this guy qualify for one of the programs that I have? 100%. So now I just got an appointment, and he booked it, actually. There you go. You see it today. Donald, set up a time for tomorrow. Look forward to talking to you. I have 15 minutes to talk to this individual. I'm going to give him some advice, but then during that time period, I could probably land him to go into one of our programs, way more so than me just spamming and saying, hey, buy our program on LinkedIn or send out spammy email. I engage. I gave value. This led to an opportunity. I can go on for days on this stuff here, so I don't know if you have any thoughts there, Joel. But this is one of the strategy I teach my clients and help them with, especially as they're trying to find unique ways to continue to do digital interaction.
Joel,
Yeah, go ahead, Reshma. Absolutely.
I just wanted to ask Donald a question. So just taking everything that you said and just, relating it to what I'm trying to do. I feel that, all right, I have a target list of 20 companies, and then I'm trying to figure out how to get their information, right? You can always download lists or buy lists, things like that. But one of the ways that you're talking about is very innovative, right? It's a different way of approaching people. But you touched on it before, and I was hoping that maybe you could talk a little bit more about it, which is how do you avoid being spammy? Because my thing is, I want to reach out to these people, executive to executive, but I even feel salesy, spammy, and it just doesn't feel genuine. And I'm like, why are these people going to respond? Because if somebody approached me like that, strangers, right? Like strangers, it wouldn't work. Do you have any thoughts or tips or advice regarding that?
Yeah, so there are a couple things you can do. You can warm up so I'll give you some different strategies first. One of them, you can warm up your connection pool. So one strategy you can warm up my connection pool is, again, by looking for cues that they might have. So if I saw that Paul, who I haven't spoken to in 2.5 years, but Paul recently just posted something because now he's trying to get on LinkedIn a little bit more, I could also comment on his thing. People have egos. And I cannot tell you how good it feels when somebody, that's why Facebook and all these social platforms love it. Whenever you post something and some human being out there, could be my mom, going likes it and comments, I'm like, thank you, Norma. That's my mom. But it makes me feel good that she commented and that she liked it. Now imagine if that person is a colleague and they said something thoughtful about something that I took the time to post. It's like, that person cares about me. Or even if it's don't do anything for salesy purposes, just warm up the base. Just say, hey, Joel, I have not spoken to you in a long time. How the heck are things going right now? Do that in the voicemail. That's going to be novel to them, and they probably respond. And that's all you want. Share content on LinkedIn. And let's say step 2, if I share content and I know Joel would be a good person for my business, I might then share a piece of content and ask Joel a week later or whatnot, or tag him in one of my posts, because I'm posting every week now. I'll say something to the nature of, here's some of the top executives that I have respected over the years. I've grown to respect. One of them is Joel with this company. I tagged in my LinkedIn post. He's going to feel good. One of them is Valerie with the Eastern Minority Supply Development Council, and also John with XYZ company. Well, who are some of the people in your life right now that are mentors that's helping you out? It's a simple post, but other people are going to interact with that. But you guys are going to feel good. That's going to lead to dialogue, and it might lead to a conversation, how things are going. Or what I have done, because of my podcast, I have deposited for years by sharing content on social media or interacting and gave people stuff. So now in March, I went to the bank, and I started asking for withdrawals. So the way I did that, I asked people like, Christine, out of curiosity, have you guys ever invested in outside sales training? And amazingly, a lot of people would say, well, yeah, we discussed that, and we wanted some help with some things like that. Can we have a dialogue? Great. And it wasn't spammy again, because those people in my base, I engaged with them for months. And then now I was going back to the bank to get some withdrawals. So if you haven't done anything, do the first thing of warming up your base, connecting with people, sharing content, tagging people, engaging with people's content. I always recommend people spend about 30 minutes a day on LinkedIn. For my team, we do about 20 minutes. They have a goal of getting 20 ideal customers every single day to connect with them. They send these connection requests out. And then we have in the first thing in the morning. But then now what we're doing is that our pool keeps building up of VPs of sales and VPs of marketing, directors of sales, and those people who can be good fit for our businesses and account executives. And then when we share content relative to those people, they see it, it leads to the conversation, they get into the inbox, and appointments come just like that one.
Great. Appreciate that. That's very helpful.
What I love about this, Donald, is that you've really added a strategy to using LinkedIn. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people have created LinkedIn as online resumes, right? Where, right, there's not an interactive tool. It just sits out there. And I think, to your point around Microsoft Facebooking it, right? Like giving it all these tools, that's really how we're absorbing content, right? We are absorbing content through multimedia, through all of these different things. And LinkedIn missed it. And for years, people found it boring. They just weren't interested. It was a work project. They did it out of the mundane habit and nature of it. And what you're telling us today is that it is far and away not what we set it up as, that it's more than the resume. There are ways to connect. There are ways to be innovative. There are ways to use it. And what I love about what you said was you actually have a very strategic approach to using it. It isn't just going in hopes. Like to Reshma's question about the spamming, you're using it with really very strategic, definitive ways on how you're going to engage and be seen as a unique subject matter expert, right?
Yeah, and even with like there's so many little things, and I try to put a game in it, because what happens in my mind, and the way I tell people this all the time, what happens is that we see that we try to get to the sale so quickly that we neglect to focus on the things that happen here. You know what I'm going with this, because you're in the same.
I am. Yeah.
Like,
you're right.
Your quota or your goal, your revenue goal is to get X amount of dollars. So it's like whatever activity I do, it must bear fruit tomorrow or today. If I post something, I need money from it. If I see somebody on LinkedIn, you're a sale. Let me go ahead and pitch you. And the one thing I would tell you all is stop that LinkedIn pitching, right? That spamming, where as soon as you connect with somebody, then you send them, hi, my name is so-and-so. I've been in business for X amount number of years. I connected with 2 financial advisors today, and I want you all to follow up with me on LinkedIn. And I promise, I did it purposely, accepted their connection request, because I'm going to get a pitch tomorrow, because they are all these automated things. Everyone who's a financial advisor, we have mutual friends in common. We'd love to connect. I was like, bro, I know exactly where you're going with this. You're going to send up let's talk about your financial stuff. My money's all right. I don't need your help with that. I got somebody taking care of it already. The value add is just quickly pushing to, come buy what I have. And it's a long message. But go to the opposite side. Again, you connect with people. Say these 20 people I connect with. I tell you, I grew up in Jamaica, man. I come from Yard, man. And, we had to go to the country sometimes in the summertime, and the people would farm. When they're farming, nothing comes right away from the farming, but you see it like in a couple months or whatever. So those peas that we had to go pick, those things weren't stuff that came right now. It was from several months ago. So let's say if you're doing LinkedIn and you're warming up your base and you're connecting with 20 people per day, what's going to happen with your LinkedIn pool in a matter of 2 months if you're connecting with 20 ideal customers? Right. That could be, and you're engaging with them. Whenever they have a birthday, I send somebody a birthday. Whenever they have congratulations on a new job, say congrats on a new job. What's one thing you're going to do? What's the first thing you're going to do when you start off? What's your first point of action? Or why curiosity? Why the change? But these little things cause dialogue that allows me to come back and have conversations and get appointments and solve problems for them.
I love that. I think it's spectacular, and it's a big reason why we wanted to share this today. And it's funny because we're talking a little bit about the new business opportunities, right? Connecting to grow your business. But, at the same time, we have a lot of existing relationships that are underneath our nose that we don't necessarily pay enough attention to, right? So it's watering those trees that we have of existing relationships. And Paul, brother, you're kind of the master of managing these relationships and really kind of playing this game, man. So what have you been using? I mean, what have you been doing, either social media wise, digitally, or just in general? How are you managing to continue to grow those relationships and really solidify them in positive ways?
So I'll share with you guys the mistakes. I've been in sales my entire career. So I probably have more mistakes than success, as we all do. Before we even get to LinkedIn, one of the mistakes I still think most people make, and I even with our team, we still make it now and then. You don't have a system to follow up, because as Donald said, it's not the first contact, it's not the second contact, right? Or the third or the fourth. It's normally the sixth, the seventh, I think the 12th is what math says. So if you're starting off from scratch and you don't have Salesforce, I recommend creating an Excel sheet, right? And tracking the last time I talked to someone. If you can do it in Outlook, there are free apps on the website, but you need to have something where you're tracking these contacts, because I love what Donald's talking about, right? In fact, I highly recommended some of our teammates join today because I wanted to get free training. Donald said, it's 10 minutes. I wanted them to look what Donald was showing us, but we have to then take that, because you said we had 3,000 contacts. You have to put those folks somewhere so you can follow up. And I know you can follow up in LinkedIn. And Donald, let me know. There's probably some functions that allow you to go in and say, when's the last time I talked to this person? But as long as you have some system to stay in contact, because it doesn't matter how great of a salesperson you are. If I call Joel 10 times in 6 months and Donald calls him once, Donald may be a better salesperson. Joel's probably going to remember me. So that's one of my biggest focus when it comes to relationships. So you have to be present. I've lost many deals. I'm not sure who else on this call can relate to this, where you call the person, you're a week late for a deal. Has that ever happened?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
You ever want to get punched in the stomach? So that's the worst feeling. And that only happens when you didn't call when you said you would.
Yeah.
Right? So
that's spot on.
I have others, but that's one of my core advice is get a system to follow up with your contacts, your current accounts, your former clients, your target clients, and then new customers. Everyone should be prioritized. If you don't have that system in place, I think it's tough to, you can go find 30 people, but after that first call, don't find 30 more, and then 30 more. So that'll be my feedback on building relationships. Talk to people.
Yeah. Yeah. Has anybody else had some success with this side of it, right? Like just making sure that you've been solidifying your existing relationships and potentially, going after some of those expansion businesses, right? I think we sometimes, in sales, we focus too much on the new business, that we forget about expanding our existing business. There are opportunities within that. Anybody else have anything that they want to share on how they're getting that done or staying on top of that, really?
Well, I can comment on it, Joel, just briefly I
Yeah.
find that the challenge that I experienced within the past 6 months of dealing with COVID, before COVID, I was very focused on, okay, like similar to Paul, talking, managing existing relationships, focusing on new relationships, going to all the events and doing that. Now that that's completely stopped, it's forced you to figure out how to use LinkedIn and the different tools to be more innovative, to connect with new and existing clients. And so, and then challenge that I experienced as a business owner, and I'm sure you all feel this too, is finding that balance, right? And it's something that I had to force myself and say, okay, I need to allocate X amount of hours a day and say, all right, you need to manage the business and do operations and everything else. But it's really important for those reasons that we just said, because you're missing out on those opportunities. So I have recently, like yesterday, I spent all afternoon just reconnecting with about 7 people that I haven't spoken to in forever. And we didn't even talk about work. We were just shooting the breeze. And that's what it was about. And I had to remind myself, because I had moments of what you all just said and what you and Donald said, which is, you think that you wanted to end up somehow talking about business, but I had to remind myself that no, this is what business development is, and working on those relationships. Prior to COVID, that's what you were doing when you were just like, hey,
That's right.
you're in a hotel and you see somebody walk into the bar, you may not get a drink with them, but you're walking with them and you're doing that same exact thing. I think it's a reality check that you have to shift your minds 100%. And like Paul said, is it really going to go back to normal? You don't know. So you have to really utilize this form of technology.
Well, you make a really good point, because we used to do this.
Yeah.
Like that stuff we did naturally. We would see each other at events. We'd be like, hey, I haven't seen you in like a month or 2 months, right? Like that was a normal course of business. We don't have those chance meetings. And you see corporations talking about how the innovation happens in the hallways and like they're missing these. So it's the same for business owners. It's the same for business development people. Those are we were at lunch and I walked in while someone else was walking out or whatever. Those are the moments that are like, we should get together, right? Let's put it on the calendar right now. And then the next thing you know, you're having a meeting and you got an opportunity, all because you were around, and that's sort of gone. And so you have to kind of find, like you said, Rachel, really other ways to just do that, right? But we have to be more intentional, right? And that's what's changed, is we didn't have to be intentional then. It was just doing our normal day. We'd run into those. Today, we have to be more intentional with how we develop those. Donald, were you going to add something?
You know when somebody's getting ready to say something, they're like, "Oh, I'm like all getting all ready."
I know. Yeah, it was either that or you were getting ready to fight somebody. It was one of the two.
Look at Paul. Paul got something too. Look at him.
I'm thinking about what I want to say. That.
One of the things she said, which I really love, was business development. I think so many of us forget about the last part. We're like, business, I'm getting new business. It's like, no, business development. You develop that and you get the business. And then also going back onto the idea here, one of the things one of my friends said in our mastermind this morning was that your job as a salesperson, as a business owner, should be one thing. That one thing when it comes towards business development is not solve a problem that you have, but solve a problem, become an expert at solving a problem that your customers have. The moment you can become an expert at solving a problem your customer have, you will never really go broke, because what will happen is that people are going to recognize you as that problem solver. And here's the other thing that I'm going to tell you, that all of you, sorry, not just too general, not necessarily, most people, and I put myself in this boat because I've done it before, I see us sometimes on LinkedIn, again, we're the wallflower. It's like the kids at the dance, and we're sitting back there like this, just kind of like, just sitting back in the corner. And you need to get uncomfortable, especially right now. Some of you weren't used to camera. Then all of a sudden, everybody became celebrities with LinkedIn, right? They got with Zoom, we got comfortable better doing that. So now the other part is getting uncomfortable. You might say, I'm not a good writer. Who cares? I'm not a great writer. I have people that make sure they edit that. I have writers and stuff that can do some of those things for me and then get some of those things done. But there's no excuses that you should have. I don't know what to post. I would say just go to like Reddit, and no matter what industry you're in, if it's Reddit healthcare, Reddit sales, People are posting questions in that. Answer those questions, because all of you have the curse of knowledge where you've been doing your thing for so long and you know so much, but you're like, that's such a stupid question. Nobody's going to ask, how do I set up a Zoom account? Or nobody's going to ask a dumb question like, how do I do a cold call? Nobody's going to ask a dumb question about how to use LinkedIn voice message. I mean, it's in our mind, we might think it's a dumb question, but for somebody, they don't know that. But think about the problems people have. Solve those problems, and you'll see amazing things happen for you on LinkedIn. But you have to be engaged. No, you don't have to do anything. The only thing you have to do is die. The government wants you to pay taxes too. Take this opportunity. Look at this as an opportunity for me to get in front of my potential customers. And I'm going to share this with you. The secret of this, the majority of your competitors are not going to do it.
That's right.
The majority of your competitors are not going to do it. So please, if you want to see success, take advantage of just do once a week, post something on LinkedIn. Engage 30 minutes a day on LinkedIn with people that you already know, so it's not going to be scary. And you'll see what will start happening to your funnel as you go down the line. Key
thing in there, your competitors won't do it. It is a differentiator. It is how you show your value. It is how you show that you're different. It is how you show that that's where it really is. I think that's a really good point. That's a great point, Donald. So let me wrap this up, because I want to ask you all of you one last question, and I want to leave some time for some Q&A. And this was Paul's favorite question, so he gets to go first. So knowing what you know now, right, with COVID and all the changes in sales behaviors, what would you have done differently last year to prepare yourself for success this year? What would you have done differently, Paul?
So, I'm going to echo what Donald and Rash and you just talked about. I think we take relationships for granted, right? I know a lot of people, right? And I think I did a bad job. Horrible is right, bad's right below. Standing when you need someone, that's the time you want to call them. That's not the way that business works. So one thing that I wish I would have done a better job of last year is just staying in contact with people. And staying in contact could have been something as simple as Donald mentioned, posting. And the reason I say that, in a weird way now, even posting on LinkedIn, when I call someone like, hey, I saw you posted that. So it's almost like a very nuanced way of staying in contact with people. As you're posting, it's almost like they're walking in the restaurant and saying hello. That's what it's replaced. It's you're touching people. Even when I see Resh post something, and Donald, you, Joel, that's kind of a hello. And if I like it, I'm saying hello back. If I don't like it, I'm not saying hello back. But it's that's my way to get. Sometimes I don't read the content. It's me saying, hey, Donald post something. Love it. I want to support him.
Yeah. Right.
So I say definitely doing a better job of posting consistently and also maintaining the relationships that I had, right? And making them stronger, because I needed those folks. Second, as I mentioned, we talked about diversifying. We didn't do a good job of being deliberate, of saying, hey, who do we need to go after? And the best example for me is the federal state projects, right? I've always talked about federal and state projects for 5 years, right?
He has.
And now all of a sudden the government's going to start spending money, and I'm like, hey, we need to get a federal state project going. It's going to take me a year to get going, maybe 2, right? So I wish that the plan that we talked about, to be candid, I should have executed that earlier, because it's we would have been further ahead at that point. So that's number 2. The third one, I would say, I mean, this goes a little bit outside of sales, but using data and analytics, right? Yeah. I think measuring where you are at all times. So when we've done the best job so far in our business the past 6 months measuring data, because we had to. I think if you were doing it prior to that, it would have helped out tremendously. So those are the things that, again, I wish we would have done it. The last 6 months forced us to do it, and we did it quickly. But if we had a year start, man, we been in a better position today.
Yeah, no, solid advice. Reshma, how about you? What would you have done differently?
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry, Meg. I think I hit the wrong button. I'm sorry. I think I stopped the recording. My fault. I was expanding the screen. So
Reshma wasn't too excited about my strategy.
Yeah, she was like, nobody's going to get any value from this. Let's stop Paul's recording.
Let me stop now.
Let's just stop it. And then when I get ready to go, I'll record it again. We're good.
My fault to everybody. I hit a wrong button. I was thinking about that. And the funny thing is that I wanted to comment, just make a joke about what Paul said, which was when you're on LinkedIn, it's funny. I thought I was the only one who doesn't always read it. So I always just, because I'm really just big on supporting people too, because business friends, you need to support everybody. So that was I thought I was the only one. Glad I'm not.
I think it's more people than you think. I think it's a lot of people who do that.
I think
Yeah, oh yeah. The majority probably. Yeah.
Probably, but in all seriousness, what would I have done different? I really have reflected upon that over the past just couple minutes, and as bad as it sounds and as shaking as life-changing as the pandemic has been, over the past 6 months, I'm actually really grateful for it, because it has it's forced me to completely, like I said in the beginning, completely shift on how I'm approaching this business and how I'm strategically working on it. And again, it's been a struggle, don't get me wrong, and sales has been hit and affected we've struggled, but somehow we've come out on the other side of it, because now we have an end goal, an end game in mind. And if this didn't kind of force me to stop, then I wouldn't have seen it. I would have been going a million miles an hour. So I don't think I would have changed anything. I think I was just trying to find the positive in the situation.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there was this definitely forced us to really get out of our comfort zones. It forced us to be innovative. It forced us to get creative. And candidly, that's what happens in a good economy. A good economy forces you to sort of just hit autopilot.
Yep.
And this either tests your mettle. Hey, Donald, how about you, man? What would you change?
I amen and echo what everybody else said. And in addition to that, we have a lot of stuff done remotely with our team, because of the way our business is structured. And we one of the things that we did and that I would do a little bit better was to have more effective processes in place. And what I mean by that, when people are not in person and you're bringing on new team members, how can we better train those individuals and get them going? And it's through some of those processes that we have. And also being prepared for disaster scenarios. Being in South Florida, and Joel, I know you live down here with hurricanes, and you know what that was like.
Yep.
It was, everyone has a hurricane plan for when a hurricane hit. Now, no one understood everyone was caught flat-footed with COVID. We didn't understand the dynamics of this, but if I did have some of these processes in place, it would have helped to be able to ease into this a little bit easier. And then be everywhere. I think COVID allowed us to recognize that there's more that we could do when we were going to conferences remotely, and when we show up for meeting with a jacket and a nice black shirt and you have gym shorts underneath. So, I mean, you be a little bit more nimble when you're, and you can be more creative when you're going through being processes. But I could go on to and done more things, and it allowed me to recognize the opportunity to carve out a little bit more market share with other people by looking for key strategic partners. And COVID allows us to be able to do that a little bit more. But if I had followed the everywhere mentality a little bit more so than I did before, that would have been fantastic for us, because we would have been in, go back to Paul's idea of being diversified. A final thing was, I noticed during the coronavirus that we did some things. We went for smaller deal. We had some smaller deals as well that helped us, especially during the early portion. But then I also had to raise my mindset, because I also believed that I was only worth X amount of dollars. And during the coronavirus, we've made some really good money. And some of the things that came from that was that we pushed ourselves to actually ask for a bigger price on certain things. And one of our deals recently with just a little consulting project, I would have asked for a less amount. And I pretty much doubled what I was typically asked for, and the client paid. And it just made me realize too that there are industries that do have money, and people do have money. So a lot of people got that extra stimulus money, and the one guy told me that he used that to just buy the hot tub because they already had money, the business is fine. So it wasn't like something that they need. And other people were hurting, but people out there have opportunities, and that it pushed me to be able to ask for more and be bolder during this time period. And I wish I would have been doing some of those things prior to this.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a good point. Y'all, that was all awesome stuff. I want to make sure we leave some time. It's 12:52, so I want to leave some time for some questions. I didn't see anything in the chat yet, but if you have a question for the panel, please go ahead and throw that in the chat. I'll give you a couple seconds. I think Christine was going to go ahead and read some of those. I did put everybody's LinkedIn into the chat. I saw somebody ask to connect with everyone, so that's all there.
There's a question, Joel.
I see.
With EMSDC, and I am monitoring the chat. Someone's asking, are you doing your sales appointments on Zoom? And do you feel it gives you a leg up versus a simple call?
Great question, Ginny. So Donald's clapping, so I'm gonna go ahead and let him do it. There, yeah, there it is. He was salivating. Salivating. Go ahead, Donald.
Yes, yes, and yes. We need to do more videos because the studies are showing that what's happening. People, I partner with an organization known as Wingman. And if you ever heard of Gong, Gong is also another data analytic software. But Wingman, one of the things is pretty much the same type of thing. But they're analyzing calls and they're seeing that people who have videos on during their actual appointments, they're having a close rate that's much better than those without. And it's, I mean, there's so many things with it, right? The voice is there, but when you are able to do a video with someone, they could see interaction, they could see your face, they can understand your expression. And we know, again, people do business with those they know, like, and trust. So if I can give another avenue for you to trust me, and we want to, whenever we interact with people, we want to make sure we can help them to use their 5 senses effectively. You don't have to touch anybody, but sometimes we do this in a physical meeting where you shake somebody's hand, so you touch them. You want to make sure that you smell them. They smell good. You remember them. You hear them. They are, you hear what they're saying and they're articulating themselves, and you're having good dialogue. You're not going to taste them though, but you get the concept. But the more senses you can use, obviously you can see them, but the more senses you can use, it helps that person to build that connection with you as a human being. And video is a huge way to do that. So it's a disservice to yourself if you're not taking advantage of videos when you're doing those one-on-ones with your customers. And more people are so used to it. And it saves money too. You jump on, instead of using long distance phone, jump on Zoom and do that.
And let me add this little piece in there. Not everybody wants to do it. So sometimes your prospects or whoever doesn't want to do that. What I would do is before, when you set up the meeting, try to tell them that point that you're going to do it over the camera. Let them know in advance to be on camera, because sometimes people just don't want to, they just weren't prepared, but they're happy to do it. So I agree with Donald. You should do it, and you should definitely put it in there when you schedule the meeting. Let them know. There's a bunch of other questions in here. Let's see here. Go ahead, Christine.
No, you can go. Take it.
Sorry. What about when you schedule a call, but the other person, your potential client, won't use the camera? Oh, well, how about that? I answered that one. Anybody else want to answer that if they have another strategy around that? That's always mine, is I tell people up front.
The only thing that we're in process of doing this now is giving options. So we're using Teams as our video platform.
Yeah.
We want to give them the video and the telephone option and let them choose. So we've been trying to put them in that position. So we're actually literally reaching out to upgrade our team so we can actually have a telephone number, conference line, and a login video line for them. So that's at least on the initial call. Current clients, people that I know, I'm just sending it out. And if they're not on, sometimes I'll stay on myself. Yep. Right? I say, hey, it's okay. I'll let them know it's okay, but I'll stay on because I think it does, like you said, trust, eye contact, they can see my reaction, that it does create some value. But you don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. So as much heads up that you don't want them to feel obligated. I try to make sure that I do mention those things before I speak to someone as well.
Agreed.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I've actually seen recently that sometimes just picking up the phone and calling someone, people are pretty excited. They're like, oh, this is how we used to do it. Because candidly, setting up the Zooms and the Teams sometimes can be a little cumbersome. Yeah. Right. And I agree, not necessarily for a sales call. Those I definitely would, but you can always be unique to just go back to the phone. That's because Paul Douglas is a brand name, now a household name. See, that's what happens when you let certain people into the room that are just not gonna let you slide on anything. Thanks, Malik. Appreciate that.
Yeah, Malik, okay, I figured out.
Yeah, of course. See, there you go. I don't see any more questions. Anything else? So we have a couple minutes. I'll go around the room, let everybody give one more chance to say, if you have anything. Reshma, ladies first. I'll start with you. Is there anything you'd like to share? One parting idea, concept, anything? You don't have to.
I would just, no, I'm just going to take a moment and just thank everybody for joining. And hopefully it was a good conversation, and it was a real conversation about what is working, what's not working. And clearly, Donald shared some really good ideas on other techniques on how to leverage, LinkedIn in this case is what we talked about. So hopefully it was worth everybody's time, and we would love everybody's feedback too. Just in regards to, do you like these MBEIC hosted webinars? Is this something that as other MBEs you want more often? So please give feedback to the council or to us any way you want. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, anything you want to add?
No, we talked a lot about the prospect pick up the phone call and they'll accept your calls. We all know we're in sales. 60-70% are going to say no. They're going to say mean things. So I say that to say, use the tools, track the data, right, to see what's working and what's not working. That's the best thing I'll prefer, and do it in a way where, hey, we reached out to 10 people today, 1 person responded. Tomorrow we did 20, 2 responded. It's still a numbers game, guys. I don't want to dismiss it. It's numbers in addition to what Donald mentioned to us today. So that'll be my advice.
Awesome. Donald, any parting words, my friend?
I was just connecting with folks who just reached out with me and on LinkedIn. And the last thing I would say, use every opportunity to interact. So with everyone that sent me a connection request, I just went ahead and and sent them a message back, because engagement is another avenue you can engage. So just think, how can I engage? Make a game out of it. How can I engage with people and be creative with it, and follow some of those things that Paul shared there with the stats. Makes it great. So.
I'm awesome. Sending a video back, and Donald sent a message. Is that what he did? So we'll see. We'll see
what happens.
We just had a whole hour of what to send back. He sends back.
Although, can you imagine him standing here right now going, "Oh, thank you." So recording them as we're talking. So, well, anyway, thank you everybody for taking some time out of your lunch. Please go get some lunch. If you'd like to learn more about any of us or have any questions or want to connect with us, I sent the LinkedIns. You can connect with us on LinkedIn. We're easy to find. Also, if you haven't downloaded or haven't heard Donald's The Sales Evangelist podcast, please make sure to check it out. I guarantee that you will learn something every single time. With that, everyone have a wonderful rest of the week. Thank you to our panelists. And we hope to see you at another one of these soon.
Thanks, Joe.
Good. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks.